welcome back to the podcast. Dante Troina, my guest today, class of 2018, Ketchikan High School. You were a freshman, my first class at Ketchikan High School. Now here we are outside of the green coffee bean in Ketchikan, chatting it up. What's going on, man?
Yeah, not much. Just here for the day. Just coming in on the Norwegian Bliss day. So we have about, I think, 4,600 guests this week, and then one of me. So coming in, doing laundry, seeing the dog, seeing my mom, and getting out by 12:45.
So you work on the cruise ship, Norwegian Bliss, and that's got, you said 4,600 passengers right now?
Yeah.
And the thing is over 1,000 feet long.
Yes.
And it's got 20 decks.
Yep.
It's one of those monstrosities. What's the best part of working on a cruise ship?
The best part, and the part that so I joined, we'll get into that maybe, but I joined pre-pandemic, and what kind of kept me with the job through the pandemic and relaunching into the ships was the people. Mm-hmm. It's so cool meeting all these people, not just the guests, but working with people from 50 different countries on board. You know, and meeting, I can say I have a friend from Montenegro, I have a friend from Cambodia, I have a friend from the Philippines, I have a friend from China. Like, you meet people from all over the country, or all over the world. And just being with them every day and getting that experience in life, not just being friends with them, but seeing how different people operate from different parts of the world. It's so valuable, and it's such a cool way to work. It's a cool workspace in that sense.
So your job is shore excursions. So you deal less with the day-to-day on the cruise ship and more what happens when people come into shore and booking their flight seeing or their whatever. So what does that kind of job entail?
So I'm the Assistant Shore Excursions Manager. I did shore excursions staff for about a year and a half. And basically what shore excursions entails is just setting up the logistics of those people going on the tours. So making sure that they get to the tour they want to go to, suiting their needs for their vacation, because that's a lot of the reasons people, especially Alaska, that's why a lot of people would come to Ketchikan, is to go to something like the Lumberjack Show, or go have, crab at George Inlet, or go out on a float plane to Misty Fjords. They come to these destinations specifically to do something in the destination. Unlike a Caribbean cruise out of Miami, it's more so they're on the boat for the ship and nice weather. And a lot of the ports are beach ports in the Caribbean. But here it's about suiting their needs, about making it as organized as it can be. I think today we had about 1,700 guests on tour. So over a third of the ship is on tour today. And just making sure that that's a seamless transition for them, and hearing their feedback after the tour, and making sure that their vacation is the way that they want it to be, and working with limitations with that, with maximum capacities, with space, with times, deadlines. The port time that we have today is pretty short. So do you want to do this, or do you want to see Creek Street in downtown? If you want to see Creek Street, you should just go to downtown on your own. So sometimes it's not about selling a tour. It's about making sure that their experience is good, right? And they see what they want to see. And
since you grew up here, you probably have some good insight. Are you kind of like, yeah, you could do this, but, bro, let me tell you, this is what you need to do in Ketchikan?
Yeah, it's actually harder for me being in Alaska, making the sale to guests, because I'm like, what would you do in Ketchikan? The guests will ask you that question. You're like, I would go home and see my mom. Like, I don't have a travel plan in Ketchikan. And then my dad works and operates like 4 or 5 of the tours too. So I don't want to recommend those tours either. Just be like, yeah, my dad runs them. And then he'll be,
Daddy.
Oh, okay, he's doing that because of Dad. Yeah. But yeah, it is a thing where I'll tell guests, like, what you want to do is get out right in the morning. If you want to go shopping, that's what a lot of guests want to do. You go straight to Creek Street and you just enjoy that. And then you can go through downtown, go to the Discovery Center, maybe go up Married Man's Trail and just hit that area for an hour or two and enjoy your day. And that might be all you want to do, and that's okay. But yeah, each guest is entirely different. Each guest, I'll have an 80-year-old woman asking me, what would you do in Ketchikan? I'm like, well, I'm 20 and I want to go on the adventure carts and go off back trails and speed in those things, but you might not want that.
Yeah.
And then sometimes they do want that, and you're surprised by people. A lot of people, it's people that are checking off their bucket list and want to put money into the experience and want to do something a little crazier than what they do in their regular life because they're in Alaska, they're in the wildlife. It's unique.
So you have people who are on a tour that they arrange through the cruise ship. You also have people who are getting off and finding their own people who aren't affiliated with the cruise ship.
Yeah.
You have people who are getting off the cruise ship who are just kind of doing their own thing, walking around. How many people just stay on the cruise ship? Like today is a really nice day. It's going to be beautiful. How many people are just hanging?
Today, I'd say just under 1,000 will stay on board for the entirety of the day.
What do they do?
They just hang out.
Like buffet time, hang out by the pool, like
Exactly.
Man.
They enjoy it, and those are usually repeat cruisers.
Okay.
So they enjoy that asset of like, everybody's off the ship. I can go to the buffet and have what I need to have. I can go to the spa and have it to myself. There are people that they're like a Latitudes member, meaning they cruise with Norwegian again and again and again. They get discounts on their cruises, let's say 15 to 25% off their cruises. Those guys have been to Ketchikan 5-10 times.
Gotcha.
And especially they're surprised right now when we pull up to Ward Cove Dock and not downtown.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where the decision comes in, I think. We're like, do I want to get on a shuttle for the 4th straight day into town? Because a lot of our docking situations are shuttle buses into town. So Sitka Juneau, less than 500 people are on the ship. Icy Strait, there are 2 long days in Sitka and Juneau, and then an Icy Strait, which is Huna.
Yeah.
About half the ship does not leave.
Yeah.
And I think they just kind of assimilate that through the crew because it's a busy day for us on board. A lot of the crew members don't leave the ship there either because there's not – a lot of crew members leave for shopping. They leave for points. They leave for going out and enjoying the port. Icy Strait, when you've been there once or twice, you've seen what's there. There's no Walmart for crew members, and that's our crew drill day. So the crew members do like a drill once a week where we simulate a safety situation and all the crew members are involved. And so when guests ask crew, what do you do in Icy Strait? A lot of their waiters, I don't go out in Icy Strait. And that kind of, I think, gets to the passengers by that time. So they just kind of sleep in that morning. It's the longest day. So I think you go up to breakfast in Icy Strait and you can't get a seat up in the upstairs section of the ship. If I went now, I could walk in and have like first class treatment and be talking to all the waiters. But Icy Strait's the one day where I'd say about half the ship does not leave the ship at all.
Makes sense. And then how does that compare to different areas that you've been in? You said the excursions are way different. Like in the Caribbean, you just kind of want to hang.
Yeah,
get off the boat.
it's about 50-50 split there too in the Caribbean itineraries. Europe, everybody gets out. This is Alaska, Europe, South America, Polynesia. I've been to a lot of really cool places. I've been really lucky, but that's where everybody gets off the ship if they can, right?
Where have you gotten off? Where's been the coolest thing that you've seen?
I went to, when we reopened the Norwegian Spirit, I was reopening Polynesia, which was amazing. There hadn't been a ship there. Why
reopen? Is that like post-COVID?
Post-COVID.
Okay.
So there hadn't been a ship there even before COVID for 3 years before COVID. So it was the first ship there in 5 years. And so the reception from the people was amazing. They were having drum lines and dancing and sharing their traditional dances there. But also just the tours are so unique. And that's I do the job and I love the job. I don't love tours. But when I was in Polynesia and Australia especially, I went on any tour that I could go on because I treated it the whole job where, yes, I have work, but I'm never going to be back here. And I was glad I treated it with that mindset and got out and enjoyed the places because that whole run for like 5 months, I was just doing activity after activity that was just awesome. I did a tour in Bora Bora where it was snorkeling with stingrays, then sharks, then a coral garden.
Wow.
And then you go to a private island and you're eating lunch on a bench like this with water underneath your feet and stingrays swimming underneath you and eating mahi-mahi and fresh, grilled steak down there. And it was pretty impressive. In New Zealand, I went to the Hobbiton set for the Lord of the Rings movies. I think that was that was a big thing for me. That was amazing. That was one of those days where I feel like a kid, and it's one of the best days of my life seeing that.
So you didn't go to college for a 4-year degree in tourism management or anything, and there's this kind of narrative that all high schools are pushing all kids to go to college, and you went for 1 year. But based on, you kind of see how the tourism realm worked here because your parents used to be co-owners of Knutson Cove.
Yeah.
So you kind of saw how that stuff worked. So you're able to have a very successful job, which could be a career if you wanted it to be.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that everybody can do it. That doesn't mean that. So what kind of helped you in this? It's a non-traditional method, but the opportunity. So how did you get to this point?
It was something I would do with my summer job. So I started working when I was 17 for HAP, which is the bus transportation company, and I was basically in charge of the logistics with all the buses for the tours. And I enjoyed that job a lot. I really did. And being out here and being involved in mayhem and problem solving. I love problem solving. I love, finding the fix to a problem. I love being involved. I love a job that keeps me engaged. This job is exactly that. When I went to college, I wanted to write. I wanted to be in journalism. That part of that was probably due to you and having an awesome teacher that made me write about what I love. When you got to college, or when I got to college, I wasn't writing about what I loved. And there was just kind of a stall with that where I knew I had to be in college for at least 2 more years to get to what I wanted to do. And I was like, I'm ready to work. I'm ready to see the world. I'm ready to engage with my life and be out and do things. And I realized I was paying about $30,000 a year for something I wasn't sure about. And that's nothing against, I went to Northern Arizona University. I enjoy that university. I like Flagstaff. I enjoy my time there. I made friends. But there was just something about, I'm not where I'm meant to be. I just felt that in my core. And so that summer after my freshman year of college, I just kind of started asking around, what can I do? And it was just right in front of me with all these guys I was talking to on the ship that said, you should try it. It's a cool job. You pay no rent. You don't pay for food. You're netting your income. It gives you structure immediately. And that was kind of what I needed, where it wasn't college, but it immediately substituted that, where I had a room and board. I had food paid for. I lived 5 minutes away from work.
Learning things, skills, all that.
Exactly. And it's a job where I told you work with people from all over the place, and you work with problem-solving different scenarios and with financials, with logistics, with timings. And so you learn just invaluable skills in Excel and communication, and different things that could apply to any job and that are more valuable than the degree that I might have gotten because I didn't know what I was going to use it for. And so it was something that, frankly, like the short answer is I just applied for after that with Norwegian Cruise Lines, Princess, and Holland America. And Princess said, you're great, but you're too young. Holland told me, come back when you're 21. I was 19 at the time. Holland told me, come back when you're 21. And Norwegian Cruise Lines said, when do you want to start?
Nice.
And I told them as soon as possible. And they said, great, and didn't email me for about 5 months. And I was like, okay. And then all of a sudden, I think November 1st, 2019, I got an email, hey, can you join the Norwegian Pearl in 3 weeks? Oh, okay. And then it just started. And I joined the Norwegian Pearl in Miami. 2 days later, I was in the Panama Canal. And just, you get on board and you're never prepared for the jump that it is from reality to, it feels like its own different world because you're just in someone else's vacation working for them and trying to understand things, especially those first couple of months. I'd never been to Panama. And I'm trying to tell guests what Panama's like. And you're watching videos and reading paragraphs and like, okay. And it was a confusing itinerary where we went through one side of the Panama Canal and went out the same side. We didn't do a full crossing. So trying to explain that to guests without doing it myself and just getting that jump into working like that was something. I wasn't thrown into a fire or a position that I was uncomfortable, but I was thrown into something that I didn't know. And that I'm forever grateful for that because hey, you sink or you swim, like literally on a cruise ship, right? But you have to learn, you have to work, and I had no other option because to me, I had left college and promised my parents that I would make sure that I didn't just live with them, and didn't just bum off them for a couple of years, or I didn't want to take a gap and figure myself out. I wanted to figure myself out while gaining money and while gaining experience, and that's exactly what this job provided. Yeah.
The gap year thing is scary because a lot of kids convince themselves that they need time to figure something out, and so they think that's like a life pause button, but it's not. So like during that year that you're hanging out or doing whatever, you're just convincing yourself that, Amazon's going to just show up and provide you with some purposeful job that you're going to love. And it doesn't work like that. So getting out, and if you take a year off or you leave college to go do something else and you're learning, you're growing. So now you have choices. You've met a lot of people. You've been to a lot of different places. And with all those things come opportunities. If you just kind of come home, and some people have circumstances they have to come home. If you come home when there's no network and you're just hanging out, you don't have those opportunities to find something that, oh man, I didn't even know this existed. This is awesome. I want to try this. And that's the huge difference. I think you said left college, which was good. Technically, you're like a dropout. But I don't think your parents see you like that. I don't think you see yourself like that. And I don't see you like that because it was this is a great opportunity. I'm going to take this and I'm going to do this.
And it was something that made me happy. Like especially now, I'm 5 years in. I'm a little jaded towards certain things. I'm seeing the inner workings of working for a big company or whatnot. But especially at the beginning, I was like, I love this job. And there was nothing better than the satisfaction of like getting a guest that has no clue what they're doing and figuring out their whole vacation for them and them just being happy. And they check back with you every day on some of those longer cruises. Like, hey, Dante, we did that zip line you recommended today. It was awesome. And I've never been ziplining. I'm so scared of zipline. But figuring out what they need and providing that need is a cool itch to scratch. You know, it's a cool problem to solve.
Have you seen the one in Huna? That one seems
crazy.
Out of control.
It's crazy.
There's no way.
It's you go 1,400 feet up in a gondola. It's like a ski lift looking gondola. So I've done that part of it. And then you go 60 miles per hour down on the zip rider.
Brutal.
It's a lot of guests say they're not as scared of it because you're strapped into a chair.
Oh, okay.
And you don't have to take the step off. Because I know a lot of people that are scared of ziplining, they don't like the step.
Yeah.
And jumping yourself.
It's not natural.
They pull a lever and you go on that one. So a lot of guests actually prefer that one, weirdly, even though it's a longer distance. And you're on a clear day, you can see straight down that channel. And it's right in the inside passage. So you can see, you know, the flat calm waters, but you can see mountains in Canada. You know, you can see flat Earth forever, it feels like. And
say flat Earth? You're a flat earther now?
No.
Should have finished out college.
But you can see, you know, all the way into Canada when you're doing that. And you just see, you look like you see everything in the world, and you're going down there. But guests like it for some reason because you're strapped in. It's just that extra comfort. And it's so crazy that going from tree to tree is scarier because of just the one step.
When I went skydiving, it was the same sort of thing. Like, I was strapped to someone, so that person just kind of like pushed me to the edge, so I didn't have to do anything. And then they jump out, so I got nothing. It's not I'm not in any sort of control. And then like the floating thing, like you're saying, like you just see the expanse and everything is like once the chute's going, it's pretty cool, but you just got to get there, and that's the nervous thing. It's just not a natural thing to jump off there or go up there. But
there's so many things that we offer like that, and there's so many tours where you'd be amazed at how many people have gone up there on the zip rider. They're like 90 years old. And they just full on like, oh, I'm doing it. This is my one time in Alaska. They're completely aware of it. Like, if I die, I live 90 years. I've had ladies say that directly to me. I'm like, okay.
This is it. This is it.
If that's your choice, like, good for them. And like, it's something.
Other than Ketchikan, what's your favorite port in Southeast Alaska?
So, I like Juneau. It's hard to say after all the years of pettiness and rivalry.
Played football against them.
And them beating me in football, especially not just playing against them, but getting my butt kicked against them. But there's something about it's a good day for me because I get a little bit of time off there. We get our tours out. It's really easy to sell tours there because it's Mendenhall Glacier. And it just immediately checks that bucket list item for a lot of guests. Or it's whale watching tours that they're as close as you can get to guaranteed whale viewing. And so we'll get over, I think last week we had 2,700 guests on tour there.
Wow.
So more than half the ship goes out in Juneau. So we get a morning rush, and that's exciting because it's engaging with the job. And you're just sifting through people and filtering them onto tours. And then you get this dead period for like 3 hours where I can just go do whatever I want to do. And that's really nice and convenient for me. Where if I'm behind on work, I have 3 hours to just catch up on work without anybody bothering me whatsoever. If I want to go grab breakfast out in Juneau, I can. If I want to go when the distillery opens and have just a gin mixed drink and just forget about everything that I have a job even, I can go do that. And that's what's nice about maybe not so much Juneau, but the call time. I won't give Juneau that much credit. But the call time and the way it's set up for us, it's a nice day for me. Sitka's beautiful, and Sitka I get a break there too. And that's the part where my partner on board, she gets a break that day too. And we get to just go out and enjoy Sitka. And Sitka's so easy to get around that I love Sitka. Even when it's rainy, it's one of those places where it's just easy to get around and easy to like. I like Sitka,
How much free time do you get in private time? Like, are you all constantly kind of on call, or like having a chance to, like, do you get to do an excursion? Like you just said, you could go have a drink if you wanted to, but
I could make an excursion happen for myself.
So helicopters in Juneau you could do if you wanted to?
I could. It's all about the duration. I can't do like the 5 or 6 hour tours. I can't be away from the ship for that long. This is maybe my one day in Ketchikan where I just tell the ship, like, hey, I'm going home. And I think I've been on the ship the last 3 years, so everybody knows that on this ship, and they just kind of take care of me with that. But yeah, helicopter and Juno, I could do. It comes in sold out every week. That's a bucket list for me. It'll happen at one point, I think, but I've never asked them because I think it's impolite to ask.
Yeah.
Even though there's part of it where a lot of people come in, I'm dealing with all their money, before it comes in, but I never want to ask them because that's just a huge favor from them. And those pilots are doing, when they're not landing on the glacier, they're doing other amazing things and helping out Alaska in general. So I never want to ask for that kind of tour. I can go on any tour that I want because we are selling the experience, and I've been able to jump on some really cool tours that I just told you about, like the Hobbiton, the Shire, and then some of the snorkeling tours in Polynesia. In South America, I would do all the meat tasting tours because they have the famous Uruguayan and Argentinian beef, and that was just incredible. So I would just do that at will, every week. I have a break around 12 o'clock. I'll go on this tour, and that'll be my lunch today. And that's just an awesome experience to be able to do that. But free time in general, I'm on call. I'm on call 24/7. Being in management, you have a phone with you at all times, which is nice to have that handy phone, little. It looks like an old Motorola phone. It's nice to have that because you can communicate to anybody you want to, but it's terrible to have that because you can be communicated with at will. So I've gotten calls up to 1 a.m. about, there's a guest here now that wants to change their tour for tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. We have opening hours. That's usually the statement that I give. We close at 8. You're calling me at 1. It's not going to happen right now. And learning to be impolite in a polite way about getting your own personal time. But yeah, you're on call 24/7. I get about 70 to 80 hours a week logged on my timesheet right now because we keep track just via old school, just mark an X for every half hour that we work. Last week I got 74 hours. So yeah, you're busy, but I've learned so much how to maximize 2 hours in a port and maximize that hour break. And in Seattle, I can run up to Pike's Place and go to this comic book shop and buy 2 books and then run to this cafe for breakfast and also get a coffee on the way back and be back on the ship within an hour and a half. And I know that route by heart. And so learning how to maximize your time is a huge part of it. And I know a lot of crew today, you see them hop on the Walmart shuttle. They probably work at 10 a.m. They hop on the shuttle at 7, but they might be starting to open up for lunch around 10:30 to open up the cafe, let's say. But they absolutely maximize that time. They get back at 9:30, they change, they go up for work. So even when you're on break, you're taking care of yourself in that time. So it's nonstop lifestyle throughout the day. It's nonstop goals, mission.
Different every day.
Yeah.
Logistical things. That sounds pretty cool.
Yeah.
Obviously, you can't get too detailed, but could you put a percentage on the amount of good to bad interactions or ratio? Because obviously there's going to be some tourists who are just unruly, but I would have to think by and large they're mostly just people who are curious and want to figure some stuff out.
It's 95 to 5, 95 being good. The 5% sticks out. They make it. And some nights you'll catch the 5% all in one evening. If we open from 5 to 7 this evening, I might catch that 5% for those 2 hours. But then the rest of the cruise is pleasant. Or, you can have a cruise where you're catching those people consistently. But man, yeah, I don't want to go into too many stories. I've had drinks poured on my desk. Ooh. I've had people yelling at me, calling me words that I have a good vocabulary, but I don't even say those words.
But why? What did you do that was so wrong to them?
There's the one that poured the drink on my desk. It was my first contract. We have a $50 promotional credit, meaning if you take a shore excursion, you get $50 off the shore excursion. She didn't understand the concept of that, and she thought that she had a $50 credit in general. So she wanted me to pay her $50 cash. We don't operate in cash. Yeah. We don't have a $50 cash back for that credit. It's a promotion. When you choose the cruise, you just check a box, I want this promotion. It's no extra cost to your cruise. It's a promotion for us to get more bookings. And it's been especially rampant after COVID where they're rampant, double promotion, double this. Whatever. It's promotion, it's business. Green Bean Coffee might have 25% off today, but you don't get 25% off without buying the coffee. Right. You don't come in and say, hey, I want my 25% of money. Yeah. And that's basically what she had been telling me. And she got to the point back and forth, where she was, okay, then what excursion can I take today? And we were in Freeport, Bahamas. And Freeport, Bahamas has is just right in the middle of the hurricane cycle every year. We were providing ice and water to the island as a ship. In order to dock there, we got free berthing there, but we were providing the entire island with ice and water. Mm-hmm. That's the kind of place that we're dealing with. So the one tour that we had was Beach Adventure, and it was a guided beach walk across a beach. So I look down at the system, and I look at her after she caves in, and I say, we have the Beach Adventure. And she just looked at me and dumped the drink with eye contact. And I just said...
With eye contact? So she looked at you?
It was mostly ice at that point, but she just dead eye contact, dumped the drink.
Awesome.
It was... I kind of respected that she got that mad over that. Like, it's pretty crazy to think that someone can get that fired up on vacation. We had one the other week who was just pissed about the salmon sports fishing license here. And I finally couldn't keep it any longer. I didn't tell her I was from Alaska because it wouldn't have worked to my advantage in that case. But I said, like, you have to take that up with the state of Alaska. That's hunting. You go anywhere, you know. And she looked at me and tilted her head and said, I think you need to step away before something bad happens.
Oh, nice.
And it was this short, you know, like housewife lady from Texas who's there with her 4 kids and wants to take them fishing. But she saw that it was catch and release and saw she had to buy a license. And she was mad about that, and nobody told her. And it's in writing in all of our descriptions. It's in writing on the ticket. It's in writing. I do things where I send notices to cabins, where it's just a sheet of paper. And for the fishing tours especially, I've typed it out and had help with the operators and Canoes and Cove, ironically enough, was the tour. And had help with them, like, hey, it's 4 rods. It's rotating fishing, so you're not holding the rod the entire time. Because fishing's different everywhere in the world, and a lot of these people from the south it's way different fishing down there. So it's just describing fishing, and it also says about catch and release up until I think it was the 15th of June this year, and it also says about the fishing license, what you should have, that you can sign up for it digitally or sign up for it on the boat, whatever you need to do. She's saying that nobody told her, but then she has this notice in hand. I read this notice, and that's how I found out. And I said, okay, but that's our way of informing you. But I don't feel informed. You want to cancel? And I offered her a cancellation. I said, that's great. We can cancel you. That's fine. Because she came first day of the cruise, and there were 5 days till Ketchikan. But she just wasn't happy. I don't know. Like, there was no... We came all the way from Texas, and that's not the longest flight I've ever heard. And I'm just kind of sitting there trying not to be rude to her at that point or fire back, because I'm like, oh, the things that are going through my head of how I could just shut her down and get her. But then you have to weigh out, like, okay, customer service, but then you also weigh out, okay, she's not going to be here after the week, so maybe I could just fire one back at her, and it's only a problem for 6 days, which isn't that bad. Yeah,
that's the thing. When you're in the early 20s, you start to see some adults, and it starts to occur to you, what type of adult do I want to be?
Crazy.
Oh, I don't want to be this.
Crazy.
But it's weird. I don't know what it is, but all of a sudden you start to just stockpile these memories and think, I can't be that. So sometimes, like, you still get frustrated, you still get angry.
Yeah.
But then maybe there's like a little regulator that's like, oh, I don't want to go there. It's not gonna be worth it. It's not gonna make any sense. Let's just dial back a little bit.
Yep. We have a lot of guests where it's an older man, like 70s, 80s, with a younger Asian woman. My partner on board is Filipino, and her and I have talked about days where we encounter guests like that and how they treat their wives and how they treat them like, oh, she doesn't know English, don't bother talking to her.
Oh.
It's like, what in the world? And, you know, and they're comfortable saying it straight up, and the wife stands there and takes it, and I'm like, and we talked it was 2 nights ago. Let's not be like these people. Like, please, if that's the plan in life, like, let's never be like these people. Or we'll encounter guests like this lady she's mad because she's fighting for her kid about the fishing license. She's upset because her 10-year-old son is upset. And I get that, but I'm like, man, I'm teaching my kid that's life. Yeah. Like, you can't control nature, and that there are laws. Like, and there were comments in my head like, are you going to teach your son to be a criminal? You know, there's things like that kind of go through. And as soon as you leave the desk and stop talking to the guest, that's when the best comeback comes to your mind. Yeah. Obviously, right? Or like, yeah.
It's nice that it comes later, because that way it's like, oh, man, if that would have come to me in the moment, then I may have said that.
It would have been too good.
I didn't say that. Yeah. Yeah, the relationship thing is interesting too. Once you're in a relationship or you're close to, then you start again. You're observing the way other people interact in their relationships, and you think, okay,
and treat their person. Yeah.
My wife and I were skiing up in Juneau, and there's this woman who's terrified, and I'm terrible at skiing. My wife's pretty good.
Yeah.
And she had fallen down, and she was too scared to kind of get up because he'd kind of forced her to go up this run that was a little bit more steep. So she was just kind of scooting, and he's just yelling, "Get up! You can do this!
Yeah.
You gotta!"
Yeah.
Well, actually, he didn't say you can do this. It was like, you have to do this. Stop being a chicken. This and that. And I'm like, man, that's horrible.
And loud enough that everybody can hear it too.
It's so embarrassing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I'm glad I'm not that. Really glad
Yeah.
I'm not that.
Yeah.
But
And then you see some of the people when you reframe it like, oh, I'm not doing too bad.
yeah,
Like, all
it's
right,
like, I hope my wife appreciates that.
I did not yell at my partner
Yeah.
today. That's awesome.
You just wonder too what else is going on in their lives, because people want to come to Alaska and go fishing to just get
Yeah.
away, and some people vacation so well and they're
Yeah.
so appreciative, they're so excited.
Yeah.
You go
Yeah.
out on a charter and they're just happy to see whales. They can't keep the fish. Hey man, it's fine. I'm out on a boat. I'm
Exactly.
in Alaska. This is awesome. And other people, they're escaping their life, but they're coming here and they're bringing all that tension and all that anger and all that frustration with their life, and they just
Yeah.
take it out on everybody. And there's no fish they could catch that's big enough. There's no excursion that can be good enough, and that's.
Yeah.
I kind of feel bad for those people because
You could give them $1 million and
does
they'd
it's
say,
not
why
a
not
million
to?
and one. Yeah,
Yep.
it's kind of unfortunate, but Alaska is a great place if people treat it right or have the right mindset to just really
Yeah.
kind of decompress.
I think that's what the bucket list comes in, because a lot of people, I think, have this expectation of Alaska, or they get so ramped up for the cruise that it either meets it and they get so excited and happy. And that's most of the guests, are they're just so thrilled. Like, they come in and you see them taking pictures of streets and, and mountains and the sky and anything that they can see, there's a picture of it. And then there's guests that one little thing goes wrong and they've amped up and they've saved up money for this trip, and they've taken the whole family and they've joined with their grandmother who's maybe older, and there's a multitude of reasons for them being as upset as they get.
Yeah.
But I think part of it is like the expectation is so high, and it gets higher and higher. It seems like every year as we get more tours or more acclimated to cruising again, it's just a group of people there's some that you just can't satisfy.
Yeah. The people who they say that it was different than what they expected, but just as awesome. Because sometimes you're limited
Yeah.
by your expectations. You
Yeah.
think it's going to be this, and then reality's different, and it's like, oh my gosh, this is. I
Still
didn't even
great.
know this existed. This is
Yeah.
even way better because my
Yeah.
expectations weren't even high enough.
Yeah, and there's a lot of that too. There's a lot of people who are I just want to see Alaska, and they just don't care what it's like, whatever. I just want to say that I've been there, and where should I go or what should I do? And so you put them on a rainforest hike, and it's not a hike. They call it a hike in the tour description, but it's a walk around Ward Lake,
Yeah.
and they're just thrilled with that. And that's all they want to do in Alaska is be among trees, and it's just great.
Yeah.
Like, that's as easy as it can get. And then there's some, they want to skydive onto the water, catch the float plane, launch off from the cockpit, and have a whale jump up and wave and say their name. And that's just not going to happen.
Not going to happen, no.
Unfortunately.
Speaking of expectations, if you were to go back to freshman year English, you're in my classroom, if I would have said, hey, Dante, one day you're going to be working for the cruise lines, would you have said, gosh dang it, Dante, like, what are you doing with your life? Would you have said there's no way that's going to happen? How would you have responded?
I don't think 14-year-old me has any right to speak on that. But no, I would have never guessed it. That's for sure. I would have thought that I would be, I don't know. What I wanted to do was make movies, or I wanted to figure out a route into sport. I still do. I want to figure out a route into sports and being some sort of equipment guy for Oregon football or something.
Nice.
That would be my dream in life. But I would have been shocked if you told me I was doing this. I wouldn't have been surprised if you told me I was doing tourism in Ketchikan. That would have made complete sense to me. Or like taking up, at that time we still owned the marina. If you told me I was the owner of Knutson Cove at that time, okay, that would make sense. But if you had told me at that time that I would have been to all 7 continents now at 23 because of this, I would have never believed you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing. We talked about it in regard to work, but also like in life. It's like you go out and you have some experiences, and it's like, man, this is way different than I ever would have planned, and I'm so glad.
Yeah.
Because if you try to pick your career when you're 18, you're still so young. Like you could change. You probably should change your mind. Like it's just wild to think that 18-year-old you or 17-year-old you is just going to have this path drawn out. Because almost no people, unless you're like a doctor, because you have to get on that path and go that, or lawyer.
Yeah.
But so many other jobs and careers are about that experience and networking and people and opportunities. And just going for it.
Yeah, and it's just set for you, right? Like when you're 18, that's from the time you're a kid in school. Like. When you're 18, you just make up your mind, and that's life. And that's how you think it works, is that you just one day wake up like, I'm going to college for this, and there's the next 30 years of life. And that's just not the case at all. And I think COVID and the shutdown for some people my age was such a blessing, where we got the chance to kind of reassess. And I saw people like rise up and become better versions of themselves. And I saw people shrink and not expand in that time. And that's not anything against them, but I think it showed a lot of people the mirror and showed them that time and it made me think, like, do I want to do this job? I'd only done it for about 5 months before the pandemic, and I'm like, I left college for this job. I don't know what my future is at this job. I don't know if cruises are even going to be a thing. And faced with that reality, you're like, okay, we got to make something else happen. So I was a para at Point Higgins. That's what I could do in the time, because I was still employed by NCL. Didn't know when I was going back. But I was like, okay, I got to do something, because I'm going to go crazy, especially with no classes or nothing to be a challenge every day. I like being challenged. I said at the beginning, I like fixing problems. I enjoy that. It gives me like a certain, pride in myself. And that was missing. Yeah. And then so you have to figure out what else makes you tick or what else makes you motivated. And there are days, I'm sure, like with anyone during the pandemic, where you just wake up like, got nothing planned.
What are we doing?
It's kind of weird once you do a couple days like that where you have nothing at all planned, and you're just, I'm kind of boring right now. Like I'm not stimulated at all.
Yeah, I think some people feel that is what life is supposed to be, where you just get to wake up, and that's the dream, where you just wake up and not do anything. And I think that might be true for some people, but man, not moving, that inactivity is. Yeah. Even if I just sit around the house for like half a day, like I got to accomplish something. I don't. It doesn't feel good to either not exercise or not accomplish some sort of goal, or read a book or listen to a book or just something and being active. You just get. It's just awesome to be able to do something.
Crazy.
What's the next goal? What's the next thing we're doing? It's just fun to have that perpetual motion forward.
Yeah.
Well, coming up on a half hour here, I know you got to get back to the ship at some point, get the laundry and whatnot. So I guess pitch for. I don't know. What do you want to pitch? Your closing thoughts or anything? Do you want to pitch the cruise line or life quote, or what do you got?
I won't cave in and pitch the cruise line on this. No, I just feel like so many people will get caught up in what's expected of them, and they don't set expectations for themselves. Where I was really lucky to have the mom and dad that I do, where they expect good things for me, but they don't have a thing expected for me, or a route specifically expected for me. And they've been so supportive, and like, as long as my expectations are high for myself, or if they see that I'm pushing myself, they let me do that, and they let me be the driving force. And I think I'm so blessed that learning more as I grow up and they're parenting me less, let's say, or parenting me, taking care of me less, but they're caring for me more, and they're becoming better parents and offering better advice to me because I'm getting older, and because I have better questions for them, or better problems for them to solve too. And I'm so blessed that they took care of me and got me, and helped me with this job and supported me in that. And even today, like, my mom picked me up and brought me here still. I'm here for 1 day a week, and they just endlessly support me. And I think that's important. If you don't have that support system around you, make it for yourself. Because there were times even in college where I was so scared to tell my parents that I wanted to leave and didn't know what the job would be. And even on board ships, you're away. If I'm not in the Alaskan itinerary, I'm away from them for 6 months, halfway across the world. And making that support system for yourself, or having that confidence in yourself to like, I can do this, I can make things happen for myself, is really cool to have. And it's something that I think everyone needs to maybe experience, and just being outside of their comfort zone, whether that is college and being alone at college, or being alone at a trade school or job, or just jumping off and traveling by yourself. Being your own support system while knowing you still have guardrails in life, it's golden.
Yeah.
I don't know how to explain it really, but it's just I know how lucky I am. Yeah, not a
That's
plug,
great.
but just yeah.
That was a great finish. Thanks, man. Thanks for being on here. Appreciate it.
No problem. No problem. Thank you.